I'm just gonna say it. I want inZOI to end The Sims 4. Or more so, end the stranglehold The Sims 4 has over the life simulation genre. Call it wild, call it unhinged, call it wishful thinking, or that I'm just another hater. But the exploitative and buggy behavior The Sims 4 EA, dare I even say, Maxis, has given what has been, I think, a decade. Has it been a decade? 2014. September 2nd. From when this video releases, we're only a handful of days away from a decade worth of this DLC-ridden madness. And with the amount of DLC it has accumulated over the course of what now would be 10 years, no gaming community should endure this. With Paralives promising no future DLCs, and inZOI not bringing up the idea of microtransactions, hopefully they don't go down that path.
지금 너무 과한 수준의 어떤 이 구현이 가능한데, 근데 이게 나중에 바뀔 수 있겠지만 이 기능 하나하나 다 이렇게 DLC 형태는 아닐까요?
아닙니다. 이게 왜냐면 이제 아까도 저희가 올해 급하게 좀 사실 이러다 보는데 올해 말이라도 얼리 액세스를 하고 계속 고객분들하고 이걸 만들어 가겠다고 한 이유가 뭐냐면, 제가 유저로서 10여 년 이 게임을 할 때 제가 이 게임을 다시 하게 되는 동기부여가 언제 봤냐면, 게임을 하려고 들어왔을 때 누군가 되게 멋진 옷을 만들어서 이렇게 갤러리를 올려놔요. 와, 나 이거 입어보고 게임 다시 할래. 이럴 때가 제일 그래요. 그래서 저는 뭐 이런 부분을 갖다가 판매하고 돈이 되는 것도, 뭐 게임 개발자인데 그죠, 돈 벌어야죠. 그렇죠. 그거 맞는데, 하지만 이제 그거보다는 선순환? 어쨌든 게임과 유저들의 있던 생태계가 계속 돌아가게 만드는 게 전 첫 번째인 것 같아요.
inZOI is giving me like shades of The Sims 2 and Sims 3, but with a new quasi hyper realistic aesthetic, and like, let's just call a spade, alright? It's Asian inspired. Look, which I'm super stoked for, and I'm not gonna talk about representation here or how I feel more represented in this game more than any life sim out there, but generally speaking, the visuals and graphics are a huge selling point for a lot of simmers or life simulation enthusiasts, and the dev team at inZOI have done a really good job at diversifying the looks you can give your inZOIs. Their character creator looks so in-depth that you might find yourself just stuck in that for hours. There's so many videos online that you can see, and there's just so many different sliders. There's a color radial to get more in depth in terms of what look you're really going for. There's also this AI art thing that's going on, so you can put what looks to be external images into the game.
You can create realistic appearances with detailed controls over facial and body features. You can also customize hair and outfits to create a unique look.
But character customization, graphics and visuals aside, for me, I can really see inZOI ending the tyranny of The Sims 4 on what I believe is perhaps the most crucial element of any life simulation game. It might sound even patronizing to say, but what really sells a life simulation game is the life simulation aspect. I want to talk about the world and how the world is engaged through meters, and this also circles back to their narrative premise. In inZOI, in case you're unawares, in inZOI you play a god in training, and so your task to help out a city, whether it be Blissful Bay, which I think is supposed to be like their version of Santa Monica, and or a East Asian city, which I believe is their iteration of Seoul, and a Southeast Asian city, where these sliders are have a great effect on your city and on your Zois. Whether it be crime meter, garbage, karma, this is all gameplay stuff that loops back into the actual game, which again might sound like duh, no-brainer, obviously. You don't get that in life sims anymore. You don't get that in The Sims 4. You don't get that sense of journey of overcoming an obstacle in The Sims 4 in the same way you used to in other games. In The Sims 4, we all know, let's just be real for 1 second. You and I, it's just us, okay? No one else in the room, just you and me. We can all admit The Sims 4 is a step backwards. Perhaps the only real biggest accomplishment The Sims 4 has given to the simulation genre is multitasking. Multitasking and group chatting for how your Sims can talk in big groups. That's a really good feature. Even then, that's pretty buggy because mornings are terrible. You can be having breakfast with your whole family. You have school or work in an hour, and they'll sit there and talk for the next 5. It's a buggy mess, but you have to give it to them. They at least innovated in that front. inZOI feels like the next evolution. Feels like what The Sims 4 should have been, in that we have drivable cars, less rabbit holes, actually working on sites, more animation, which in turn creates more immersion. And all of that feeds back into the gameplay loop of what is crime like in your city, what is garbage like, what is karma like, how does your Zoids speak to other Zoids, how do they build relationships? And so all of this affects your Zoi in so many different ways. You know, one of the key things that I have watched from these trailers or from these other content creators is not just that your Zois can die, but how they can die and what can trigger as a consequence that would lead to their death. Your Zois can get hit by a car, your Zois can get killed, can die of sickness. And on top of your other, what you would consider, you know, your Sims 4 deaths, right? Death by television, death by fire, those are included as well.
Remember, inZOI is a life simulation game. If everything happened as expected, it wouldn't be life or a simulation. The nature of the simulation genre means you'll face unexpected situations. inZOI has implemented a complete community simulation where every person in the city lives with their own will, facing various events and accidents, just like in reality.
But what's interesting is that city safety, crime, all of that impacts your Zoi. Again, there is this present danger or challenge or obstacle that exists as you play the game and as you continue to play multiple households. Now, as we know so far, the crime meter, the health meter, how dirty you want your city to be, all of this will affect your Zoi in some capacity. What is interesting is that you can create scenarios for yourself, or maybe there's even a challenge mode, maybe a player self-imposed challenge, a rags to riches story of not just a single Zoi or a family of Zois, but a community of Zois, and like how a community can overcome a lot of different challenges that their city may have. Like that can make for interesting storytelling. And that isn't even to say the incredible, awesome amount of customization and scenario building should you just want to play this game as a dollhouse that you can do by just fiddling with the neighborhood meters. This is such a step up, such an innovation when it comes to life simulation that The Sims 4, she could never, trust when I say she could never do this. And now knowing that Project Renee might be just multiplayer focused and free to play or free to play, or you're privileged if you can play it, you know, freely. I don't know what they're calling it nowadays. Marketing jargon, don't buy into that stuff.
We didn't say that, no, but it looks an awful lot like that, doesn't it?
She can never go back to the way she was. And I think we might, just as people like simmers or life simulation enthusiasts, we're just gonna have to reckon with that. Like, she moved on, and so should we. Anyways, back to inZOI. Why am I talking about this like I'm dating? But I'm not dating The Sims 4 anymore, okay? I broke up with her. Well, I mean, sometimes I go back here and then. I have a very toxic and abusive relationship with The Sims 4, just until other things show up. You know how it is. Do not judge me. You're like this too. Don't judge me. Don't talk down to me like that. You're like this too. Because this game is still early in its infancy, it's very difficult to tell what features are lacking, what features are planned, and what features did they just come up on. You know, like what are they thinking about? What new ideas and concepts are they thinking about? And so I would just encourage people who are consuming a lot of this media right now, take everything that you're watching from with a grain of salt, but also be mindful of the content that exists, or the gameplay and the features that exist in the videos that you're watching, because some of that might be carried over, and some of the features that you may not think is implemented may be implemented in the future. One thing that I think would really empower inZOI in terms of its gameplay would be that feature of talking in big groups and having and incorporating multitasking into their game. But let's be real, when building life simulation genre games, it is a very difficult task. It's a very different field than building any other or coding for any other kind of game. And the only reason The Sims 4 is even where it's at now is because it stood on the shoulders of Sims 1, 2, and 3. And even then, The Sims 4 is, I mean, you know, I don't have to keep harping on that. What we see from inZOI looks to be incredibly promising, and I can't wait to see what new stuff comes next. And should they carry on this good favor that they are earning with the community, I can only hope it'll be game over for The Sims 4.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
And that is also a good thing. inZOI's success, or any other game that comes after, like Paralives, their success should not diminish the success of The Sims 4. If anything, that should encourage that team and that company to get better. And I'm just really excited to see where inZOI goes from here. If you'd like to see me cover more of inZOI, do let me know through your engagement. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate that. And I appreciate you. And I hope to see you in the next one, whatever the next one may be. So until then, I'll see you then. Bye for now.